Good afternoon, folks. Good afternoon to everybody here from and the Indian time. So we welcome all of you to this latest episode in the Qwikcilver Spotlight series. As we promised at the beginning that we will be bringing interesting and insightful conversations, today we have a very, very special guest from the Middle East region who will be bringing to us very interesting trends and insights from this very, very highly dynamic market and also the consumer behavior from this region. With that, we were very pleased to have the CEO of the Choithrams Group for the GCC region, Mr. Rajiv Warrier, who will share with us how the Choithrams brand and the network has adapted and leveraged to drive business with the ever-changing consumer, especially in this post-pandemic era. And joining him on this conversation would be Pratap, who is Chief Marketing Officer at Qwikcilver. With that, I'll hand over the conversation. Pratap.
Sabal Khair, good morning, good afternoon. I hope I'm audible. And it's very nice to be having this session today. And I'm also hoping to be appropriately attired and dressed because this is a very auspicious Jummah day, a Friday, auspicious Jummah before the auspicious Diwali week, which is ahead. So I just thought I should be suitably ethnically attired. And it's very nice to have this freewheeling discussion that I look forward to with Mr. Rajiv Warrier, who is the CEO of the Choithrams Group in the GCC meaning the Middle East. And incidentally, Rajiv and I go back a very long way because before this role as CEO at Choithrams in the Middle East, Rajiv used to be the CEO of Sodexo in India. So we at Qwikcilver have also engaged at various times in the past because we've operated as fintech players, as players in the prepaid segment. So Rajiv comes with a tremendous domain experience of the category in fintech as well as in retail now and prior experience as well. And so Rajiv he's had various roles in business, strategy, and as a finance head, as a CFO. So money means business for Rajiv. And he's got tremendous experience. And we look forward to gleaning from various insights that we are happy to have with Rajiv on this. And really, before getting the Rajiv on, for those of you who might not be aware of the Choithrams brand, we just thought there's a brief video which will give you some perspective about what this is. Whereas people in the Middle East, people in UAE are extremely familiar with this premium retail chain called Choithrams. This is more for the reference of audiences from across other parts of the world who may not be as familiar as the people logging in from UAE would be. So can we have this brief video for us before we get on to this discussion? Yes, so full of goodness. So indeed a pleasure for me specifically and for all of us here to have Rajiv. So Rajiv, welcome. Sabal Khair. Salam alaikum.
Hey, thanks, Pratap. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here. Choithrams is not just a retailer, by the way, Pratap. We're also a distributor, a significant distributor in the region. So we distribute brands to other retailers as well. While we're also a retailer, we're also a distributor. And distribution is a big business in this part of the world, right? Because the Middle East imports most things. So distribution is also a pretty established line of business in the Middle East.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for this clarification, Rajiv. So it will give us even better perspectives into the entire supply chain issues, which you're kind of anchoring apart from, I mean, as a distributor from other parts of the world, getting in the products of the principles that you represent, and as well as getting so fantastic insights that we look forward to having from you on this, because as a distributor, as well as a retailer, so to speak, you do have, and as the video shared, you have a presence across 4 GCC countries.
That's
UAE,
right.
of course, UAE itself has got the dynamics of its consumer behavior varying across the different Emirates. And in addition to that, you have consumers across Oman, Bahrain, Qatar being dynamically different. And we will be happy to learn. Could you please share some insights on the Choithram presence across the region?
Yeah, so we have retail stores in UAE, Bahrain, and Qatar. We used to have a retail business in Oman that we sold in the year 2000. So our retail stores are known as Choithrams in UAE, and they're known as Megamart, the brand Megamart in Bahrain and Qatar. Our distribution business exists in these 4 countries: UAE, Bahrain, Oman, and Qatar. And we've been in the region from 1974. So we set up in UAE our first store in 1974, and then we began our distribution business in the late 70s, and we began our other country operations by the late 80s, early 90s. So like Bahrain and Oman started in the 80s, and Qatar started in the early 90s, and so we're pretty well known. But it's very interesting that that our brand is seen differently in different parts of the GCC because the markets are different. In the UAE, we are perceived to be a premiumish brand, a premium brand, great range, great import range, great range of products, maybe slightly expensive, but dependable, reliable, etc. In Bahrain is a value market, and in Bahrain, we are a value player. We are a pretty large player in Bahrain, and we are known to be we are very popular with the locals in Bahrain. So Bahrain, maybe 50% of the population are locals. In the UAE, the population locals is about 12%. 88% are foreigners, right? So here, obviously, we are more popular with, depending on our location, with Asians and Europeans and expats, and maybe even the Arabic people, depending on where you are. In Bahrain, we are more popular with the Arabs, Bahraini Arabs, as well as the Indians. In Qatar, we are very premium. We are more premium in Qatar than we are in the UAE. And in Qatar, we cater to the well-heeled Qatari customer, to the well-heeled Qatari customer, because you know that Qatar is a very high per capita income country. So we deal with them, but we also deal with the Indians and others in that country. So we are seen differently in different countries, and the Choithram brand is more known in the UAE than in the other countries. They are known as Megamart. So
would that be also having an impact on the kind of merchandise you have in each of these markets? Or of course, depending upon the clientele which are coming in, as well as within UAE, would you be having your shelf space taken up differently in different Emirates, as well as within, say, Dubai? Your different stores have different merchandise depending upon the population. For instance, right now, do you have Diwali merchandise appealing to Asians or to Indians right now as compared to other markets in other places?
Absolutely. So UAE is the most fragmented market amongst all the markets. I mean, it has 40, 50, 60 nationalities. So you're catering to different nationalities, different pockets. So you have rich, of course, you have very rich people here, but you also have middle class and poor people here, right? You have a large labor force in this country. So depending on, our stores in the UAE, even in Dubai, for example, depending on where they are located, could be catering to more premium consumer, but could be catering to a middle class consumer, or even a low middle class consumer, depending upon where we are. And so our format of our stores could differ a little bit, depending upon and the offering that we have would differ. So we do promos, for example, in all our value stores. But in our premium stores, we don't do promos on the weekends. We do promos in the value stores on the weekends otherwise, but not in the premium stores. In Qatar, we don't even do any promos. In Qatar, we are largely premium, and there we don't do promos at all. And in Bahrain's value. So Bahrain, even the offering is a little different. We have much less imported products in Bahrain. When I say imported, I mean American, UK, European kind of products. Whereas in UAE and particularly in Qatar, we have a great range of confectionaries, chocolates, grocery, cereals, ice creams, etc. Right? So,
okay. And one is, of course, you kind of mentioned about the UAE being 10-12% locals and 80-90% as expat. That apart, the fact that UAE has got how much, I was just reading up, about 15 to 20 million tourists coming in every year. So with almost 2x, 3x number of individuals who are at any point in time on the streets of, say, Dubai are actually international tourists. Apart from the expats who are actually residents there, you have tourists coming in on for a week, for 10 days, 15 days. That's also a significant size as compared to probably even other regions, other countries of the region, or even any other country. Your counterparts as a CEO retailer in any other country wouldn't probably have to grapple with this kind of a size of what tourist influx, isn't it? Does that have any impact on how you can even shape the entire business model for you to address international segments?
So there are certain locations which are more tourist oriented. So like, let's say Marina, for example. Marina, we have 3 stores in Marina. Marina tends to have more tourists than other parts of Dubai. So over there we see tourists. We don't necessarily see tourists. We see people who come for 6 months, who take a 3-month or a 6-month stay in a hotel because they come for some work and they come for some fun. And so we get a lot of that kind of business as well. So typically tourists do a lot of the soft drinks, cigarettes, and those kind of fast-moving items. And the other thing, of course, is that we are a supermarket. So as a supermarket, supermarkets are more impulse purchase oriented. The Carrefours and Lulus of the world, which are hypermarkets, are more, the fortnight plan. So I have my fortnight plan. I'm going to purchase a big basket, and I've got vegetables, grain, blah 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 to buy. So I go to a Carrefour. But if I may go to Choithrams every day because I just want to pick up a couple of things, kind of thing. So basket sizes are smaller, but the frequency of the shopper visiting your store is higher.
Okay, yeah. Just to give the audience a size of a scale which somebody like Rajiv and his counterpart and his other retailers are grappling with is from an Indian context. Dubai gets as many tourists in a week that what the top 10 cities of India get in a year.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that's the scale at which, and they've got to ensure that, right from safety, security, pilferage, all those aspects are ensured and that's the fantastic nature of by which the systems and technology has been leveraged to ensure that it's all hunky-dory, it's all smooth. Because we ourselves, in the cities that we operate in, we live in, we realize the challenges that when there's a 10% spike in number of, let's say, walk-ins into a store during a weekend. And that's something which the Middle East and UAE has very fantastically managed to handle and even provide a fantastic shopping experience on top of it. It's not that they've seen it as a challenge. They've taken it on and even made it a lovely experience that consumers from all over the world are coming in to spend their hard-earned, be it rupees or liras or pesos or dollars or pounds in the promised land of Dubai. So would you want to, and another point I just wanted to get in, Rajiv, is now, how has this consumer changed in the last 12 months, meaning pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic? Have you seen any dynamics of consumer behavior changing there?
Big changes. So let me first, the first question was about, Dubai and UAE is really fantastic in organizing, in dealing with large crowds, so even though it's a small country with a small population, like you said, a lot of tourists keep coming in. I'll give you the perfect example of the expo. So Dubai hosted the expo last year. when the pandemic was still on. And it was organized so well and managed so well. They managed all the flights coming in, the vaccination, the PCR testing, the transport to the expo, the management within the expo. They had so many different countries who have their this thing, and it was managed 6 months. It was managed really well. It was managed really well. So I think security in this country is pretty good. I mean, there's a fine if you cross the road without at a place where you're not supposed to cross the road, you can be fined $400, 400 dirhams.
I'll be the most fined person then, Rajiv.
Yeah, exactly. You and I will both be very fine, right? Because
I love jaywalking. You see, I love jaywalking.
Yeah. So in that sense, UA is used to having large crowds in certain occasions, and they've learned how to manage that. Security is good, and in our stores as well, we've learned to manage that. So during the pandemic, I mean, the pandemic is not just 1 year, Pratap. It's actually the pandemic began in February, March 2020, right? And it's so. So if I look at the pandemic, when the pandemic happened, right? And there were certain announcements made by the government that there'll be a lockdown. There'll be a lockdown from the night between 11 and 7 and stuff like that for 2 weeks and things like that. So consumers panicked. Consumers panicked and they began to throng our stores. So we had huge crowds coming in from the middle of March onwards. Huge crowds coming in, shopping, and huge baskets, and picking up cereals for like 2 months, 3 months, picking up sugar, picking up, apart from vegetables and fruits and meat and stuff like that. So there was a lot of. So this was a time when there was fear on the ground because our employees are worried about COVID. We were worried about COVID. We were worried about our employees being susceptible to COVID. Our stores have to be open. A lot of shops were closed, but our stores were open. And a lot of other shops were supposed to be closed, but pharmacies and groceries had to be open, right? And we had to make sure that we take care of both of our employees and the communities we serve. So in that sense, I would say that we really, I think, we handled it pretty well. So we had processes to ensure that our employees were well taken care of in terms of regular testing, regular temperature checks. The staff accommodation where they were living at had appropriate facilities to take care of them. Similarly, our customers had to be handled because we had people coming into the store. So we had at some point in time to have people standing outside our store. So, so even the head of retail would go into the store. Our head of retail sits in office most of the time, would go to the store, into our bigger stores. And hey, guys, we can't come in now. Go easy, right? There are a lot of people inside the store. We can't have too many people in the store because it's COVID time. And then you have a line of people waiting, standing outside for 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get inside the store to shop. So you had all those kind of things. But I think it was managed well. So what happened during that phase, those first 6 months between March and August 2020, was that the business of retail went up. Different kind of food. So the kind of food the kind of stuff they purchased went up. So they purchased largely ready-to-eat food, groceries like rice and food grain and lentils and things of that sort. And of course, sanitizers and things of that sort. Not so much the confectionaries, not so much the impulse purchases like gum and chocolates and stuff like that, but food, bakery items. So Betty Crocker did very well during the pandemic because people were baking cakes at home, stuff like that. So a lot of that happened. And so that time, our supermarkets did really well, and Choithrams did really well in that period. Hypermarkets did not do so well because a lot of the big malls were shut down or had a controlled flow of traffic and passenger people within the mall. So they didn't do so well during that period. So 2020 really was a good year for retail. But what happened also during that period?
So you said 2020 was a good year for retail.
A good year for retail, for grocery retail, for supermarkets, not for hypermarkets, but for supermarkets, because a lot of the consumers, so they stopped going to the bakalas, the small groceries, because they felt that's unsafe. They couldn't go to the big hypers because lots of people in big hypers, so unsafe. So they came to the supers, and that really worked well for us. So we had it was a good year, 2020. But by the last quarter of 2020, things began to slow down and people began to leave the country and all that. But then business didn't look as sexy then as it did during those 6 months. But what also happened was online really grew. So in 2019, not just for Choithrams, but overall, grocery grocery occupied a very small space in the overall online basket. So online basket was largely fashion and electronics. It wasn't grocery, but grocery suddenly became a big ticket item from 2020 onwards. Our own online sales, we began our online business in 2016. We were among the first grocers to actually start an online business. And we saw that, let's say 2019, our online contribution to our total sales was about 3%. In 2020, during those 6 months, it went up to 10, 11%. And overall for the year, it was about 8% in 2020. In 2021, it was around 10%. In 2022, this year, it is going up. So it was 10, 11%, but it's gone up to 15%. So as I speak now in August, September, October, our online sales have gone up to 15% of our total sales. So that sense,
the largest store, so to speak,
changed.
It could be the single largest store. Choithrams store could be your e-store, isn't it?
Yes. So our e-store is now our largest store. You're absolutely right. Our e-store is our largest store today, and it's become a significant part. But it's not just choithram.com. So we have tied up with InstaShop, we're tied up with Talabat, we're tied up with Noon, and so our combined shopping basket online, our online this thing has gone up. Also, the behavior has changed. So pre-pandemic or the beginning of the pandemic, people were doing big basket sizes online. We're doing this big basket sizes online because they were planned purchases. But as people start getting more and more used to online purchases, now the frequency of online has gone up. Consumers come more often to shop online, and they're doing some impulse purchases as well. So the basket size has come down by maybe 50% from the pre-pandemic days, but the frequency has gone up very significantly. So much so that that it now contributes 15% of our basket, of our sales, right? So in that sense, consumer behavior has changed significantly for online. And what has also happened is pure play online has benefited a lot, Pratap. So pure play online, I'm talking about Noon and others, have really Amazon have really benefited from this thing. So suppliers have not lost out, but retail has seen a little bit of a downturn after 2020 overall, because brick and mortar retail has seen a bit of a downturn because consumers are shopping more online. So that trend is here to stay.
All right. Yeah. Fantastic. That's very amazing to kind of hear of the fact that the consumer in UAE or probably in the region is actually shifting to in this manner to an e-commerce behavior, probably induced by or triggered by the pandemic induced close downs. Is it?
It's happened in Bahrain and Qatar as well, Pratap. So even in Bahrain, it's about 8% today. In Qatar, it's about 8% today, and it will go up further.
That's weird. It's hard to fathom because in a large geography like in India or the larger countries, it's probably expected that the sheer convenience or the challenges of traveling for shopping to a physical destination would be there. But these lovely, fantastic shopping experiences which are there in the offline world and say in the region, in the Arab world, notwithstanding that there are consumers who are preferring, I would say it may not be the case. Have they shifted completely, or is it that they are omni-channel? Some days some times of the occasion they prefer offline, some other times they prefer to do it online. They're very comfortable. So it's not this versus that as such.
That's not this versus. They do both. So they do both. They do online, they do offline. Some consumers may do only online. Some consumers may do only offline, but there are consumers who do both online and offline, depending upon I'm in a hurry, I want to order something quickly. Quick commerce is also happening in a bigger way over here. So we are tied up with Deliveroo. A couple of months ago, we are the exclusive supplier for their dark stores in the UAE. We started the one store in August, and the second store started now. So we are supplying to them. So they deliver in 15 minutes to half an hour, right? 15-20 minutes.
Right. And across UAE, they're saying it's only in Dubai that they have got their dark stores.
No, so they started in Dubai, but the intention is across UAE.
Wow. So in 15 minutes, they're going to be delivering. So it's okay. Yeah. Just for the audience, this Deliveroo is equivalent to what we have Zepto here in Bangalore.
Absolutely.
Happened, and there are various other providers. And so it's interesting that UAE has also got this 10-15 minute
Telugu's done a lot of stuff in the UK, Pratap.
That's
So
right,
they
yes.
work with Morrison and
Absolutely, yeah.
Tesco and stuff. They work with all the
Yeah.
big guys there.
Yeah, they've got that. Yeah, just that. Okay, it's interesting that even the UAE consumer is kind of going into that mode of I'm happier sitting at home, Netflixing away and getting
That's
it
right.
delivered home
That's
rather
right.
than having to travel out as such. So is it that, I mean, from a behavior, is it that now so consumers are now not venturing out for the Thursday, it's no longer Thursday evening, it's what, Friday evening with family to shop and dine out? They're happier with Talabat and Zomatos of the world and binging at home.
It's not that. So one thing is that shopping is also seen as a social outing for the family or for people, right? So people don't just shop. People don't shop just for convenience. People also like to shop. They like to go to a store. So the kind of experience you can provide in your store is also important. Continues to be important, but less so. So now consumers are also looking at shopping, grocery shopping as as a need that I have to shop because I need my vegetables, that I require my grocery, and maybe it will be faster for me to apply to just shop on Choithram or shop on InstaShop or shop, rather than go to a shop and so we follow the hyperlocal mode of e-commerce here, which is that each store services 3 to 5 kilometers radius of that store. That's how you're able to do quickly. But Choithram.com doesn't do 15 minutes, half an hour. We do 1 hour, 1.5 hours. But Deliveroo does 15, 20 minutes. InstaShop does 1 hour, maybe less than 1 hour, 45 minutes. So
okay, yeah, lovely. So just to give you a perspective, so this omnichannel experience can be, let me give my 10 seconds of sales pitch. Our Qwikcilver platform would enable fantastic experiences to be added on with our platform. So our team will be able to happily engage with your team to drive this better for these kinds of engagement. We've just gone live with a Zomato program here in India. Likewise, in the Middle East, our team has kind of got some novel experiences going on with Al-Futtaim as well, for instance, across channels. So that's something which can be food for thought with our team as well. So when time permits,
great.
Do that.
A couple of your colleagues had come across a couple of weeks ago, and we had a discussion. I've shared with our retail head, and we're looking at it. It sounds very interesting. You guys are already doing quite a bit over here in this region.
Yeah, that's lovely. And in fact, even with the Lulu group, we've kind of got that going, both online, offline kind of an experience there. In the Middle East, across the region, in fact. And whatever is regulatorily permitted, our platform would enable that to be done. So you want to have the Choithrams program, customer walking in, purchasing it at Dubai, purchasing the instrument, the Choithrams currency in one country, and you want to permit it to be redeemed at another country, it can be permitted, or you don't want it to be permitted, it can be blocked, so on and so forth. That ecosystem can be permitted. But coming back to the e-commerce segment, do you see that as 15% is a significant contribution which is coming in from this play? But does that now call in for some kind of a DNA mindset change within the organization? Because what skills are required because you need the best of retail individuals, isn't it? To ensure you've got your fantastic experience continuing and scaling up further offline. Now for the online space as well, you would be needing that to drive, isn't it? Now as a CEO sitting there in the corner office, how do you manage to ensure the twain shall meet?
So there's certainly a challenge, but one of the things that we do is that we've been focusing a lot on, right in the last couple of years, in getting our store managers to understand that whether you sell brick and mortar, you sell online, the sale is yours, and your job is to enhance the sale. So whatever channel of sale happens, it's still your sale, and we have to make that happen. That's one aspect. But beyond that, from our point of view, from my point of view, I think it's extremely important to plan our next 3 years very carefully, because location is important in the retail business. So where you are, which store you are, is important. But maybe we need to relook at our systems in the stores. We need to relook at the number of people we have in our stores. We need to invest more in easy checkout options for our customers, less number of stockers and other customer-facing people in our stores, so that we're able to better leverage our online versus offline business. That's something that we definitely have to do, both in terms of bringing automation and in terms of right sizing both sides of the business.
Yeah.
That's something that's important.
All right. Now, I'd like to now glean something off your fintech experience, Rajiv, on how the consumer is now. You've seen world over that this increasing adoption of the various payment modes by consumers for the sheer convenience now that, and the Middle East being a harbinger of how consumers behave across the world. As you mentioned, 50, 60 different nationalities living together in such close proximity and the best of class retail experience available for the consumer. Now, even on the payment space, we've seen consumers as well now very comfortably using the mobile phone for a tap and pay or an NFC controlled payment. And even the store staff are very comfortable. They've been well trained by the retailers to accept that as a payment mode than was the case earlier. Now, again, post-pandemic, do you see any paradigm shift in even these kinds of payment modes? Pre-cash, pro cash or less cash, those kinds of changes?
So, two, three things. One is before the pandemic, the UAE still has a fair bit of cash, and so do other economies in the Middle East. So, cash is still used quite frequently over here. So, I would say that before the pandemic, it was 50-50. So, before the pandemic, in our stores, 50% of the transactions were happening in cash and 50% on card. After the pandemic, it's more like 70-30, more 70% on card and 30% on cash. And of course, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and all these guys are all there. So it's not an uncommon sight to see people paying with their mobile phone at the cashier. So the people pay with their mobile phone, and that's fairly common. Online also, although we have cash, so we have cash as an option for online. So you can the person who comes and gives you your vegetables or stuff can collect cash. More and more people are opting for online payments, and so either it's an online payment directly on the site itself, or the guy brings a EDC terminal to your house and then you kind of swipe and park it. So you see a lot more online payments today, but consumers still have a cash. I think more than India. India, I think, has moved more digital in the last couple of years, post-pandemic and post-demonetization, perhaps than you see over here. So, for example, you would still pay your maid over here who comes and cleans your house in cash, or your cook in cash. But in India, I think a lot of that is also now happening through Paytm and stuff.
Yeah, here too, of course, yeah, that shift has happened also now because of GST and people wanting to either be on the right side or not wanting to be on the right side, so they decide on which payment mode to use. As a merchant as well, merchants also incentivize or disincentivize specific payment modes depending upon their own line of thought or code of conduct of their own respective businesses.
Right.
But in the Middle East, I guess in a tax-free zone, that is not a factor to reckon with as well, right? Payment modes are not determined by the fact that one payment mode is easily trackable versus another payment mode for the tax authorities, because that ecosystem doesn't exist at all from a taxation perspective.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
One more thing, Pratap, apart from e-commerce, when you're talking about B2C e-commerce, B2B e-commerce is also definitely a thing of the future. So like I was saying, distribution over here is a pretty organized industry here. And, so big distributors like us, we receive supplies from our suppliers, overseas suppliers, and then we have this whole supply chain mechanisms, and we supply logistically through several outlets across the thing. But you see a lot of online this thing also happening. So a lot of the larger distributors are looking at online play. So effectively what would happen is your customer, which is a supermarket outlet or a hypermarket outlet or a bakala or a tea shop, would order online and have the goods. So then you don't have the sales interaction. So you don't have the sales interaction, but you have a less people-centric, more automated kind of process. So that's also happening in this region.
Okay, and you're kind of you're also witnessing that taking place for the Choithrams B2B business.
So we are also
business. Okay.
We are also investing. So we're also looking at investing in those interfaces to make that happen. So, for example, all our sales teams already have merchandising apps and have ordering apps where they go and the entire payment process and the entire selling process at the store happens through an app. So that happens anyways. And in the future, we'll be looking at B2B marketplaces where, let's say, a Horeca customer could place an order for, for goodness or for milk or something directly online. So
okay. I guess the Horeca segment must be pretty significant for your
Horeca segment is significant over here. It's significant in this, not just in the organized 5-star hotels and the 4-star hotels, but also the offices and institutional buying. So a lot of that happens in Horeca. So some of our stuff is also sold there.
All right. So just for the reference of the audience who may not be, Horeca's HORECA, hose, hotel, raise, restaurant, and CA, cars, catering. The hotel, restaurant, catering segment is the Horeca, which is a huge segment for consumption of food products and grocery and the allied categories. And so that's the way the business is. And would you want to give us any perspectives on now any of these triggers? For instance, now in another month, the whole world is going to descend on the region thanks to FIFA. In Qatar.
Yeah.
So what's going to be happening? So is Choithrams gearing up for FIFA? And who is Choithrams ensure gunning for? Who's going to be bagging the FIFA World Cup?
We haven't drawn our lots yet, but as far as FIFA is concerned, I think we'll see UAE will definitely benefit from FIFA because not everybody is going to go and live in Doha for 2 months or a month and a half. Dubai is a far more livable place, and a lot of people will come here. And there are flights planned. There are 200 flights, 300 flights planned between Dubai and Doha every day to take people to for matches. So they go, they have a visa, they have a ticket, they go for a match, they watch the match, they come back.
Sorry, you said 200 flights.
Yeah, something like that. Some
humongous number of flights from Dubai, from UAE to Doha and back, is it? So UAE is now piling on, quote unquote, to the audience, which Doha is going to be getting in. You could ensure they stay in UAE, go for the match, come back here. Oh, wow.
A lot of people will do that because Doha is just barely an hour away from Dubai, and
right.
And Doha will also of course work on is working a lot on its infrastructure. But they're going to have a huge number of people descending over there next month. And so there will be people in the satellite cities and satellite areas, and Dubai is probably the best bet for a lot of people. So Dubai will have a lot of people coming, definitely. And and you'll see some consumption impact in our stores as well for some items. It'll happen.
Okay. Okay. And incidentally, cricket, with so many matches and T20 matches now being shifted to the UAE, you would have that audience coming in for that as well. Cricket being the hub of audiences coming in from at least the Asian part of the world, while the globe will have FIFA as such. And congratulations, yesterday UAE won its first ever T20 World Cup match. UAE beating Namibia, if you didn't follow that. We've got the UAE captain is of Indian descent, even of Talisheri descent.
Okay, great.
Who's won this match?
Thank you.
All right. So that's interesting for us and to learn from you, Rajiv. Would you want to share some perspectives on UAE as such now? How does Choithrams handle? Who do you see as competition? Is it other retailers, or do you see an Amazon as a competitor, or are you all now partners in crime, partners in making life better for the consumer, overall goodness? How do you
So we could be partners making life better for the consumer, no doubt, but we are also competing. And depending on where you are, you could be competing with the Carrefours and Lulus of the world in certain locations. You could be competing with the Spinneys and Almayas of the world in other locations. You'll be competing with the Bacala, and you're always competing online. And you're competing online you're online, we have our own, we have our platforms plus our own online, but you're also competing with, so if you're going in InstaShop, for example, if I as a consumer go in InstaShop, I can go to Choithrams on InstaShop, but I can also go to Almaya on InstaShop, or I can go to Carrefour on InstaShop. So it really depends upon what the consumer is looking for. And but I'm happy to say that he does come to Choithram because he gets a good range of products in Choithram. We service the customer well and all that. So it's not that. But the point is, you're competing everywhere. You're competing with everybody, depending upon where you're located, and online, of course, you're competing with everybody. So you're competing with pure play online players. We're competing with grocery online players like us.
Okay, interesting.
And it's also interesting that even in the distribution space, we are going to see a lot of. Maybe this is a little different from the retail, but one interesting thing that's happening in this region is the distributors getting squeezed between the supplier and the retailer, right? Because retailers demand big rebates over here, and suppliers keep looking to see how they can enhance this region, because for global suppliers, this is still a relatively smaller region. So how they can enhance? So then they try and squeeze. So they try and squeeze your gross margin from here, and over there, the retailer is squeezing your gross margin because they take rebates from you. So it's a very interesting market, and as time goes, we see that even for some of the very large distributors are getting into joint ventures with suppliers. So a supplier gets into joint venture for that particular brand, and that brand is delivered by that JV, and they share the margins. So that is happening in this region as well.
Okay. So has the current scenario, which is kind of which Europe is battling with the sheer, thanks to the Ukraine-Russia scenario happening with Russia and the European markets battered by the sheer energy crisis and the inflation taking place, are there any repercussions? The world now being an oyster where all of us are living, partying, and struggling together. So has that kind of in any way percolated, the negatives of that percolated to the region?
In some ways, yes. So supply chain is affected. So supply chain is affected in terms of certain products, certain items are not easy. So supply chain is affected on two counts. One is China, containers, availability of containers and all that. That is the pandemic related also. And it's also affected on account of Ukraine. So oils, for example. So we used to get some really good oils from Ukraine, which we are now, which for some time we could not get from Ukraine, but now we've been able to tie up with somebody again in Ukraine to get oil. Wheat. So there are some supply chain issues, but overall, because there is a fair amount of dependence on the outside world, retailers and distributors here have tie-ups with so many different players, and so we are able to, if not one, we're able to get something else to substitute for one brand, and therefore we manage that. But the cost of freight has gone up very significantly. So freight went up 6 times in the last couple of years. It's come down now. It's come down quite a bit, but it's still much higher than it used to be pre-pandemic. So the cost of freight means that the cost of food has gone up, the cost of products has gone up. Suppliers have raised their prices, and we have raised, so retailers have raised their prices because suppliers have raised their prices. And that is happening. So we see some inflation that is happening which will happen in this year and next year. Probably supply chain has been affected this year. Next year, we are really waiting to watch and see what happens with the Ukraine war, which is still anybody's guess how long this will continue.
Yeah. So in this case, because the freight costs going up and product pricing also impacting the product pricing, does that mean now the consumer is that much more hard pressed to pay from his or her wallet pocket for goods, essential goods? So do retailers like yours, I mean, have you taken any efforts to make it convenient through far more exciting offers or promotions or BOGOs or any such offers, so that at least the consumer is feeling that much less of a pinch on his or her purchases?
So we are a lot more promotion focused now than we were a few years ago. So certainly we do a lot more promos, and we have both a Tuesday. We have a Tuesday offer. So every Tuesday we have a certain basket of products that so you can say instead of one, you can buy 2 for the price of 1 kind of thing. So both in the food space and in the non-food space. So we do that. And then on the weekends also we have a promo drive that works in our stores. And that has been working. But yes, it is true that if you look at the average transaction value, the ATV has gone down marginally. Because consumers are struggling a little bit with the increase in prices, increase of fuel costs. Even in the UAE, the cost of fuel went up very significantly, even though we are a oil plus nation. The cost of fuel went up, doubled in the last 1 year. Now it's gone down by 50%, but by 30%, but it did go up significantly. So all of that has also impacted the consumer behavior a little bit in terms they're still looking for for cheaper brands. The other thing that's happened is also after the pandemic. So during the pandemic, products like Betty Crocker confectionaries. Not confectionaries, like bake products at home, ready to make cakes at home. Those things really went up during the pandemic, and now they have come down. So to more real numbers. So we see that behavior also impacting. So the next couple of years should be very interesting. I think this UAE was very premium market, Pratap, 5-7 years ago. It was also a seller's market. It was a seller's market in 2010, 2012. But today it's certainly a buyer's market and becoming more a buyer's market, not as premium as it used to be, a lot more value. And we see that trend will probably continue.
Okay. And we're just hazarding that the region is being that much more advanced, and the benchmark, the reference points would be the other parts of the developed world, in Europe and the US or even Australia, and it would ape the consumer behavior there alongside the Asian markets which are there. And I guess Dubai would follow. I mean, anecdotally, I was kind of listening. I was meeting with a banker CEO recently in Dubai, and Dubai, the government itself is, or the UAE government is extremely keen on making Dubai a hub of even say financial business, so to speak, especially in the light of whatever has happened at Hong Kong and moving and or the challenges of Hong Kong that Hong Kong is facing, which was a financial hub, and the government, the ministry, or the equivalent of the regulatory body of the RBI, like the RBI in the UAE, is very keen on to ensure that the sheer businesses making their foray into the Middle East or into UAE will look upon Dubai as some kind of a hub for financial transactions and financial hub. So that would be interesting for fintech players as well, and for banks. To the extent that this banker person who's a CEO at a leading bank there was telling me that the moment, he has just moved in there from Singapore. So when the minister heard that he's coming from Singapore, he just kind of dropped everything else. Okay, I want to know what Singapore is doing right, and we just want to kind of beat them at their game. So it's fantastic to see the ministers or the government taking on such a can-do attitude, because we all have seen what's happened, what's transpired in the region or in UAE over the last 20 years, from practically another developing country, practically what it was,
Absolutely.
to being at the hub of cutting edge developed world. And now if they're taking on the horizon that now we want to be the hub of financial business, and won't be surprised if that happens sooner than later. And if that's the vision that they have for themselves.
They do. They are very ambitious, and it's very admirable that the vision of this government is they really have a forward vision for the government. They have a 10-year plan, 50-year plans, and they're really looking at fintech. So they have adopted cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is also something they're looking at very closely, and it's true that they've also made. They're making it much easier for people to stay on in the UAE through different kinds of visas that allow you to stay on for 5 years and 10 years and stuff like that. So in that sense, I think they're doing everything possible to make this a possible hub, both in terms of financially and people and stuff like that. And it just looks very promising from that point of view. It does.
Yeah, and to the extent that I think they're also looking at making it, with the metaverse and the Web 3.0, and that's again another hub I was reading about the government saying that now, apart from GDP, there's going to be what GMP, gross meta product. UAE is looking to be number one on gross meta product, so to speak. While the rest of the world are figuring out what that term is meaning, they've coined that's going to be the way they're going to be, apart from GDP as a business, the growth in GMP, so to speak, is what they're looking at. So setting up a world around that.
No, the UAE always likes to be ahead, right? Always like to be ahead of the curve. So.
Absolutely, yeah. So Anything else would be and from our own experience, I mean, just some questions coming in about people from our own domain of operation asking about how is gift cards, because we are seeing that happening in other parts of the world. For instance, we see we work with, say, in the Australian market with the largest equivalent like yours, the Woolworths, who are the largest market chain there. And so we work very closely with them. And they are the largest retailer, supermarket chain in Australia.
That's right.
And, so for their prepaid portfolio, Qwikcilver works with Woolworths. So we get a sense of how the market's behaving there, how the consumer's behaving there. And so we're pretty bullish that, and that's happening likewise in Singapore, in Southeast Asia. In the Indonesian market, we see that because we work with the largest retailer in Indonesia as well. So these are certain, we get a ringside view of how the consumer is behaving across different consumption categories in various markets. And we do believe that, so UAE making all the right steps and the right and moves in the right direction. We do believe that there's tremendous scope for players and brand owners to be working together on driving convenience and far more effective customer engagements for the respective customer base as we go along. So we look forward to this, and happy to have any other. I mean, I kind of got a lot of questions from the potential also already, which I posed to you. But if there's anybody else who wants to, feel free. Otherwise, we're just hard up for time. And thank you.
Want me? You already posted questions to me, is it?
It's okay, never mind. I just checked
how
myself.
popular are gift cards? No, so gift cards. I think you guys are tied up with Lulu for gift cards, right?
That's right. Yes.
You guys are tied up with Lulu for gift cards. So in our stores we don't have gift cards, but gift cards could be. I think gift card could be a good channel gifting. Could work well for channel gift, sales channel gifting kind of thing. Gift because. But I'm not sure. I'm still not. I don't really have an answer to say how big the market could be over here. I can't really. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, one is the gift card. Another point, probably just a food for thought, is on the distribution side. Since you're representing various principles, now even there, any of the bundled programs which can be there, promotional programs. There's tremendous potential which we could drive there too. Apart from the Choithrams gift card, let's say you showed various such principles which you're representing. I mean, you are principal various brands, right? Distribution. Our platform could be even leveraging, could be leveraged for those kinds of programs.
So if you're looking at promotions, you're looking at some kind of promotions, marketing initiatives using a gift card, there are a lot of things that can be done because this is a place for brands. So and we represent brands. So we could, for example, talk to a Quaker or talk to a Friesland or Mentos.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there are opportunities over there as well.
Yeah, there's tremendous opportunity because we've seen world over most of the, like we work with like Nestle, with P&G, with Unilever. They've all moved their consumer promotion packs to, rather than packaging with various products, the consumer herself has changed to receiving it in the form of digital currency. The digital currency could be of whatever products or services which the brand owner sees as a fit with the respective brand.
Right.
And those could be kind of leveraged through platforms like ours.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, sure. On that note, I guess we could just keep this. So thank you very much, Rajiv. Excellent. Lovely for sharing this perspective about the region with us. And as I was saying, one is the people who are here, and later on the audience comes on and asks and logs into this console and listens and get a perspective over the region. We've had this session with various such experts from various parts of the globe and various categories who've shared their insights with us on the Spotlight series.
Great. Sorry, you want to say something? No.
Nothing else. Yeah, thank you.
Pratap, thanks a lot. I really enjoyed this session. It was good sharing our experiences with you and also learning from you what's happening in the rest of the world. And I mean, if you have any, if the audience has any more questions, I'd be happy to answer it on mail or something. But really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Happy Diwali. Happy weekend ahead.
Yeah, happy Diwali.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
All right.